Whether you're picking and grinning or just grinning, grab a drink, pull up a seat. It's time for Roots Music Rambler. Turn it up.
Hey, how was Railbird?
What? Oh, Railbird. Railbird was great. I only went on Sunday. I did not go on Saturday. So there were a couple of acts that I missed that I would have liked to have seen, like Robert Earl Keen, Wallflowers, a couple others on Saturday. But the Sunday lineup was just killer. And of course, Tyler Childers was the headliner, and that was great. But it was really fantastic. I got to see Cassius Culpepper for the first time, and got such a great voice. And he did a Bill Withers song. He did an Allman Brothers tune. Like, he did a couple covers that were great. So he was fantastic. And then got to see Margot Price live for the first time. And a friend of the show, Logan Ledger, is in her band. And so I knew that in the back of my mind, but I hadn't connected those dots. And so I'm coming from one side of the venue. I was watching the Creekers, and I had to kind of rush over to see Margot before she got off stage. And I kept thinking in the back of my mind, Tyler's the headliner tonight, and he and Margot have a duet. Wonder if he's going to bring her up. I thought that would be a really cool kind of bonus for the Railbird crowd. I think about these things because I'm insane and I don't have enough to do with my brain. But anyway, so I'm walking over and I hear the actual song, Love Me Like You Used to Do. And I'm like, well, unless Tyler Childers is on the stage with her, he's not bringing her up tonight because she's doing the song. And I knew Tyler wasn't up there. The place would have gone berserk.
Sure.
And so as I get closer, I keep watching. And then, of course, on either side of the main stage, they've got the big, the big LED screens that are showing the stuff up close. And I'm looking at this guy singing with her, and I'm like, shit, that's Logan Ledger. And then it hit me. Oh yeah. Oh, that makes perfect sense. But I was like, hey, he's been on the show before, and he's on the main stage here at Railbird. That was really cool.
Check it out.
So I got to see Ella Langley, who is as advertised. She's beautiful. She's a great singer. She puts on a great show. I got to see Zach Top, who, as advertised, is a good old-fashioned country singer, man. He just stands up there and just plays his guitar and sings, and he's great. Crowd loves him. Very, very fun to watch him. I did get to see Nicholas Jamerson and the Morning Jays, Emily Jamerson, both of them friends of the show. Emily was a backup singer for him on stage, so she was there too. And they were great as usual. And what was fantastic about that is they were on the smaller Burl stage, which is under a tent.
Okay.
And if you remember the aerial shots from 2 years ago when the Red Clay Strays played under that tent, and it was just like people were just bursting at the seams.
Yeah.
It was almost that for Nicholas Jamerson and the Morning Jays, because the Eastern Kentucky and the Kentucky folks come out to support our own. So everybody was there. Well, the Creekers went on right after him, not right after him, but 30, 45 minutes later, they went on the same stage. I couldn't even get under the tent. Like, I was trying to get under the tent to do some videos and pictures. I couldn't even get in. And so the Creekers were the, bursting at the seams crowd on that stage this time around, which was, they just continue to blow up. And I actually saw a post today that they're finishing up some studio work on their first, big album for Warner. And I believe Jamie Johnson was in the studio with them. So I'm thinking he's going to have an appearance on this album. So, or maybe he helped co-write something. I don't know. Anyway, so they were great. And then this is where another friend of the show, Tim Parks, comes into play, the orchestration of a good manager. So Tim, if you recall, once upon a time was the manager of Sunday Best, which is Nicholas Jamerson and Chris Bentley. And Sunday Best they're still playing shows. They're still doing things here and there, but Nick's got his Morning Jays and he's off doing his solo stuff. And so Nicholas Jamerson and his Morning Jays go off stage, and the Creekers come on, and with about 3 songs to go, they bring up Sunday Best to join them on stage. Both Chris and Nick were there. And so that was just all these, Eastern Kentucky music fans, just heads exploded. Everybody's freaking out. And, But it was just really, really, really cool. And then the capstone of the whole thing for me was that I took Katie with me. She was there with me all day. And so we got to sort of share all these experiences together. And then my son Grant had a previous commitment for the early part of the day, but he joined us during Ella Langley's set. And I got to take both of my children to see Tyler Childers for their first time. And so we stood in the little VIP area, which is about 20 or 30 feet off the stage. It's crowded because the VIP passes just get you closer to the stage, really.
Okay.
But we had elbow room and whatnot. It wasn't too overly crowded like it was everywhere else with the general admission stuff. And I just stood there with one kid on either side of me watching Tyler. And it was for me as a dad, it was magic.
Yeah.
And then they both knew that if Tyler sings "I Will Follow You to Virgie," that I'm going to fall apart because I always do when he plays that song. And he started to play it, the do 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 do, and they both just kind of looked at me and they both kind of like grabbed me, embraced me.
Oh.
And so I had, a nice little emotional moment there listening to this song, and I had both kids on either side of me, and it was a really, really freaking awesome experience.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was great. And the only complaint I have is it doesn't have anything to do with Railbird itself. But we decided that we were going to park off-site and Uber in, which no problems doing that. But it was an hour and 45 minutes from the time we got to the rideshare lot until we got in a car. And when
Afterwards.
when 45,000 people are all trying to leave the Red Mile at the same time, that's what happens. I knew it was going to be a problem. I knew we were going to be late. I knew all this, so I wasn't angry, but it's just one of those things that if you're going to go to an event with 50,000 people and you're all going to be leaving at the same time, and there wasn't anybody leaving before the end of Tyler, you're just going to have to deal with that. So I'm not doing any customer service complaints or anything like that.
Sure.
It's just, it was what it was. We were out late. It was fine. I was a zombie Monday. And
I'm sure.
Monday night, by the way. And I sleep on average about 4 hours a night. I don't sleep well. I have apnea and all sorts of other things, which nobody gives a shit about. But Monday night, I slept 10 hours straight.
Damn.
No waking up, no nothing. Just boom. So,
wow.
It was great. But yeah, I had a wonderful experience with my kids, and I cannot complain about anything. It was
love it. Love it.
There you
That's
go.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, all right. Welcome to Rich Music Rambler. She's Frank.
And he's Falls.
And we're rambling on through the stories behind the music we love.
Today on the show, we are talking with my favorite music discovery of 2026, Logan Mack. Logan is from the small town of Purcell, Oklahoma, and Jason and I actually saw him perform at Crossroads Acoustic Festival back in April. So our listeners and viewers may remember that I chose Logan Mack as my Pickin the Grinnin a few episodes back. So we're excited to get to talk to him, to the man himself. So with the release of his debut album, Till the Ground, earlier this year, Logan prides himself on writing music not for recognition, but I will quote, about telling the truth of where he's been and what he's lived. So as I commented in that Pickin the Grinnin segment, Logan Mack's songwriting is very authentic and relatable.
Yeah, Logan's set at Crossroads was really, really strong. He told a lot of stories behind his songs, which kind of underlines the authenticity in his music. And his songs are typically pretty personal. He writes about his blue-collar background, the great love he has for his wife and daughters, and the experience of loss, including the loss of his father-in-law.
And yeah, this might be the episode where I cry on camera because Logan Mack had me snot crying at Crossroads Acoustic Fest when he sang his song Redbird. And the first time I heard him play that song, he introduced it by saying, well, I lost my dad back in 2022. And before I knew it, I said out loud, so did I, because I did. And then oddly enough, I kind of knew where the story and the song were going to go. And by the time he said this song is called Redbird, I was already tearing up because my family and I have long subscribed to the notion that seeing a cardinal or redbird is a departed loved one coming around to check on us. So the day my dad died, we were all sitting in my sister's backyard and a cardinal like zoomed overhead and then just kind of sat there for a while, stopped, sat there, and was just hanging out with us for a little bit. And now whenever I see a cardinal, which we do a lot around here, I'm always like, "Hey, Dad," and my kids even say, "Hi, Papa." So that song really hit me hard.
Well, I was there and can attest that Frank was definitely snot crying. I think I needed a towel. She had very good reason, though. We both connected for this show around the idea that music serves as a powerful reminder that our emotions, especially grief, are shared experiences. So hearing about someone else's journey gives us a sense of connection, something to cling to when life punches us in the gut. So Logan's music is probably more in tune with that than a lot of artists' work.
Yes, absolutely. And who boy, would you look at us getting all sappy and emotional. So enough of that. We promise that the whole episode will not be a sob fest.
No, Logan's a pretty funny dude too, so
Yeah.
it's this is not going to be all tears. But anyway, Frank and I are looking forward to talking with Logan Mack, learning more about his red dirt roots, his influences, some new material that's on the horizon. We'll also talk to him about his one happy song, which, as you might expect, is my favorite of his. But first, let's pause here for a quick break to get some refills and thank the fine sponsors that make this show happen. When we come back, we will be chatting with Logan Mack. Stay tuned. This is Roots Music Round.
Why am I much younger than I feel? Can't blame a baseball wound that never healed. I couldn't hit a curve, so I had to go to work. 10 years that I've been in this oil field. And the few days that I'm off work, they go by quick. And I swore this job would stop when we had kids. Well, I wanna be around, but there ain't nobody in town that pays half as much as this rig.
Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. That song is called Steel Toe Boots by our guest today, Logan Mack. It's off his debut album, Till the Ground. Logan, we are thrilled to have you on the show. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. How are things out there in Oklahoma?
Oh, I appreciate it for one. Thank y'all for taking time to deal with me. But Oklahoma's still Oklahoma, hot, humid, and just halfway full of shit, to be honest.
Okay, well,
We're right in the thick of things in summer, so it's not too pleasant, but it is what it is.
well, there you go. Well, and you like to write songs that tell stories that is what they is. And
That's right.
Francesca and I talked in the intro to the show about your kind of upbringing, all the lived experiences that come to life in your work. So the song we just heard, Steel Toe Boots, tell us a little bit more about that song and what you think people should take away from the story you're telling there.
Yeah, so that song was honestly it was really, written at one time, but it was written about, about a 5 to 6 year period. I got in the oil field and started becoming successful in it, and having some good luck and moving up on the ladder. And then all of a sudden, I realized I had a family. And then I realized I was like, golly, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, or being on call for 7 days straight, and living at the job. It just got to the point where I knew I didn't want to do it the rest of my life. And so me and a couple of my buddies that I worked with, we would always have this thing every day where we had an hour where we would sit and basically just talk about how in the world are we going to quit this job. And luckily our boss didn't walk up when we were talking about this, but it grew to be to be honest, looking at it now, it kind of got us through some of those tougher days, just kind of dreaming is really what it was. Dreaming of getting out of the oil field, and we would always sit and me and my buddy Doug would always talk about what he was gonna do, and my thing was always I was always like, "Man, I'm gonna buy a skid steer. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I'm gonna buy a skid steer and go make some money," you know? And, eventually, I actually wound up getting laid off. My oldest daughter had been born for 2 weeks, and I got laid off. And, so it kinda to me, it was like God was saying, "Hey, you weren't gonna do it, so I'm doing it for you." You know? And I knew from then on, I was like, "Man, there's a song in there somewhere," you know? I know everybody in this industry, gets tired and feels the way I do, and so when I sat down to write Steel Toe Boots, I really just made this list of, reflections of what we would talk about, what we would do, how we would feel, and, the verses were really easy to write on the song, just like most of my songs are. I'll write 20 verses and then realize, "Oh, crap, we gotta have a chorus," you know? And the really cool part about the chorus was I was sitting in Ruby's Cafe in Purcell, Oklahoma, and, I intentionally went in there with this on my mind, like, "I gotta write a chorus," you know? And I sat down and I was eating breakfast, and this group of oil field workers walked in, and they all got in this round booth next to me, and I really enjoyed it was almost like I was a part of their crew listening to them because I was like, "Man, this is the same way we used to talk," and I just understood their lingo, and was following right along, and they had these lottery tickets that they'd all bought. This is when the lottery was outrageous, and of course, they start cutting up and talking about what all they're gonna do, what they're gonna buy, and it was the usual suspects. One guy was gonna have a helicopter, and, one guy went way too far into detail about what he was gonna do with his million houses, and, it was ironic to me, it got around to the last guy that kinda seemed to me, looking at the group like he was probably the hardest worker. He was filthy, and he said, "Man, to be honest, at this point, I just make sure I don't ever wear these steel toe boots again." And I was like, "Hold the front door." I grabbed a napkin and I wrote on there, "Never wear these steel toe boots again." Um, and then I think I mean, I literally wrote that song, finished it, and it all made sense at that point, which is cool as a songwriter whenever, because we're all we're really doing, the songs are there, in my opinion, the songs are always there in some headspace we have, and we just hadn't connected those dots yet. And it was really cool for me to finally connect that dot because I knew it was a good song. And I was like, "Man, I just don't know what to do," but it just fell right in my lap. And, went home and played it for my wife. She's usually my very honest critic, and she was like, "It's great," and so, a few months later, I'd ran into Radney Foster and started opening for him, and he still till this day adores that song. He loves it every show. He's like, "You playing Steel Toe Boots tonight?"
Aw,
"Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am."
Yes, sir.
So, no, it
that's
just it was that was one of the cooler honestly, out of all the I've got some really cool stories about songs I wrote. That was one of the cooler ones because it just felt like it was just really meant to happen, I mean, where my mind space was the second the guy said that, for me to know, to write it down, and then it to just fall together was, it was one of the cooler moments, honestly, of writing music for me.
you were definitely in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and that's the thing, there's some songs that I'd written, 2 years later that it's like, I had this exact wave path and thought, and I didn't go here with it,
Yeah.
and it was Weeds was one that I was hung up on forever, and then when it finally clicked, it was like, dude, I had this in me the whole time. I was saying this. I just had to move the behind the four, and it's like it's
Well, the
just, it can be frustrating, but it's also really rewarding whenever, because for me, it's always the story. To be honest, I don't care if they, did you hear that Logan Mack song? I'd rather people say, did you hear that song Steel Toe Boots?
yeah, yeah.
For me, it's all about the story and the song and serving the song. And it's just really special when they do come together, and not only that, but also like sometimes when you're writing a song, when you finish it, with certain songs, you're like, "Is it finished?"
Yeah.
And for that one to be like, "It's finished," was really cool.
Nailed it.
For sure
Yeah.
nailed it, and definitely one of my favorites too. So another part of, Logan Mack and your songwriting is also the emotional depth that goes into it. And we definitely saw that when we got to see you live at Crossroads in Seymour,
Yeah.
Indiana. So you have this emotional depth, yet your personal story definitely is rooted in this grit and hard work, which I envision, especially hearing you talk about how hot it is now in Oklahoma. I envision all of this happening, amidst a swirl of red dirt dust. And, so some people may not expect such evocative music from someone with a backstory like yours. So, how do you balance it all out to create music that is so personal and emotional?
Honestly, I think a lot of the emotion, and this is gonna be a kind of a funny, because in all reality, I'm a really funny person and upbeat, and it always throws people off when I play my music and they're like, "Man, this is depressing." That's because if you know me well enough to, it's funny because I'm a chatterbox, and I make jokes about everything, and I never have outgrown that. That's what she said, like I just never outgrew it. So, it's really funny though to get reviews and people are like, talking about the most. I think a lot of it though is, um, when I sing a song, whether the story's true or not, I think it's my job to make sure that it matches, the story and the depth of it. And a lot of it's probably the way I sing too. I like everything kind of cut back and real kind of vocals up top. And I'm not the guy that's like, hey, put some reverb on that. I'm usually the opposite. So I think there's something to be said about that when people just are just organic, singing to you with just a guitar, and them singing. But it's I just write honest stuff, and that's always my first instinct to write is not. I can get caught up sometimes, and I never write a song when I think, "Oh, I'd like to write something similar to this or something similar to this," where my songs, come through usually is like I just have something to say, and it's like, okay, how can we make this rhyme a little bit and have a little bit of movement on it, but also stay true to what I'm trying to say, and a lot of my songs are a letter, really. I
Okay.
mean, there's just a repetition in the letter, and they call that a chorus. But I just try to stay honest and almost like I'm talking, because I think people can understand music like that a lot when you don't try to be too cute with it. You just be blunt and honest, and I'll always add in. I'm real big on woke up late in West Wyoming. The way I phrase stuff. I like the inner rhymes. And for me, I've always been able to make sense of them, just kind of off of instinct. A lot of times when people write songs, they're kind of like, I know what story I want to tell, but I don't know how to say it. And for me, listening to people like Jason Isbell and John Prine it's like, okay, say what you want to say and then go back. And then and when I write a song, it doesn't necessarily always rhyme. I say what I want to say, and then I start plugging. Okay, I need to be in an AA or a BB on this, to make it make sense and make it flow like a song should, and not a poem. Um, and for me, I've always been really good about twisting, stuff. And I noticed this when I was young. I would listen to songs by people, and for some reason, I went through this odd phase where I would like listen to someone's song and try to rewrite it to the same melody, but make it say the same thing, but in a different way.
Okay.
And I always got entertained by that. And I really think, oddly enough, I was kind of an odd kid, but I think that helped me a lot, in the songwriting world. And when I found out people kind of enjoyed, halfway what I was saying. Um, but, I always, too, and lately I've been co-writing some, which has been really interesting, co-writing with people. Um, but I always try to tell them, like, hey, let's make sure we stick to the story of what we're trying to say. Let's not change it just because, we want it to feel this way. Let's let the art fall where it falls. But I think that's important to be honest and make sure that the story always, makes sense. And I always try my best if I'm not educated about something. Well, I say that I'm really, most stuff I write about, I'm pretty damn educated in. But there's instances specifically with co-writing, where I'm kind of like for instance, I wrote this song called West Wyoming, And when I wrote it, I was in Afton, Wyoming. I was playing the Lincoln County Fair, and I walked by this cowboy sitting on this chute, and he had the sky behind him, and I was just looking at him. He looked so lonely to me, to be honest. He was just kind of sitting there, like you could tell he's kind of like thinking about his life. Um, and I heard him say to another guy in the chute, he said, "I cast one last night in Jackson," and I was like, "Oh." Man, that's cool. So I stuck on this, woke up late in West Wyoming, and the sky was big and lonely. That Snake River was rolling, and I thought of you. Held on long enough to cash one before I hurt my back in Jackson. And I told you that after Afton, I was done with rodeos. That just like came out.
I get the
Yeah.
chills.
And it's that inner rhyme, that I
Yeah.
told you after. But I sat on that forever and I couldn't really finish it, and so I was like, "You know what? I feel like this song, it needs to be co-written." And so I reached out. I grew up country. My grandpa had horses, but we had horses that, we fenced out everybody else from the horses. We didn't fence the horses off from my grandpa's house, and so you walk out the front porch. So I grew up very rural, very country, but I did not know the rodeo like I felt like I needed to. I've been around all my friends rodeoed. I just never, to be honest, and really never gave a shit to ask them about it. Um, I was playing baseball and doing other cool stuff, but in my mind, so I reached out to my buddy and that knew a rodeo guy, and we actually co-wrote that song. And when the rodeo guy heard that lyric, he was just like, "Well, what you need my help for?" And he spit out a chorus, and it was really cool to see two worlds connect, that really didn't know what they were fully talking about, and then it to evolve and to make sense to him too on that end, but that was important to me to make sure, and I feel like that's why that song got finished, is because I did my due diligence on, like making sure that it made sense and that it was honest. Um and that's what, getting back to your question, I know that's a really long answer, but I just think being honest, in my lyrics brings out that emotional depth,
Yeah.
and people can feel it.
Yeah.
For
Well,
sure.
one song in particular that people can feel that you didn't have to do the research for because you went through it. We talked it in the intro before you came on that you lost your dad in 2022, which led to your writing the song Redbird. That song is one that Frank identifies with very strongly because she lost her father not long ago, and she gets all
I'm sorry.
teary eyed and understandably so. But as I recall, the silver lining of your story of loss there is that it kind of prompted you to get back into music. Tell us about that journey from making music to stepping away and then finding your back to your way into writing and singing.
Yeah, so about 18, I was in Nashville for a while playing music and writing. I was just a young kid, to be honest. A lot of what I was doing is, just playing music in a place where I like to hang out at night. But I did that, and then my wife, we were kinda, like, flirting a little bit. Facebook was popping back then, so I was on her Facebook and this and that, and she cranked off one night and said, something along the lines of like, "Well, if you get a real job, I'd date you." And I was like, "Oh, is that right?" And so I was like, "Well, come on." So I went back to Oklahoma, and shortly after that, we started dating and, wound up getting married, and I stayed away from music for, golly, about 12 to 13 years. I'd still play every now and then at the house. And then when my oldest daughter, when she got to be about 6 or 7, I realized how much she enjoyed music. And I was like, shoot, you're gonna think your dad's cool because I can play all that music that you're listening to. And so that's really what kind of got me like sparked back into playing music. But when my dad died, a week before he died, um, he was at my house a lot working. He did body work on cars, and he kind of tinker and mechanic on them, and paint the bumpers and kind of everything. But he was at my house, and my dad was not very technology savvy at all. Like he'd drive me nuts with his iPhone, me trying to help him figure that out. and he'd call me on the
Sounds
different thing
familiar.
while I was trying to tell him how to do stuff. And I'm like, Dad, you can't be on the phone when I'm trying to tell you how to do this. But anyways, it shocked me though. He printed out a ticket to The Voice, an audition flyer, and I knew he didn't have a computer, so I was like, man, he probably went to Kinko's and printed that out and took a lot of time and effort, to bring it to me. And so I said, Dad, I don't know if I'll do that, but I'll get back into music. And a week later, he passed away. And so that was the last conversation that I had with him that was really kind of, like outside of what happened with his stroke and all that. That was the last conversation we had pre-stroke. And it bugged me and kind of ate at me for a while that I told him I'd get back into music. So I wrote Dance Under Stars first. And then shortly after that, I wrote Redbird. Redbird's was a cool story because I wish I had it on video and y'all could have seen it. I was sitting in my deer stand and it's literally every 2 minutes it would land on my deer stand and it would turn his head and look at me. And I just felt like my dad, growing up and being a man of faith, I always believed that, birds were the geese and the redbirds and all that. I've just always believed in that and felt like God sent those down sometimes, to give us signs. And that day was pretty evident for me. And I'd taken the week off from work, and every day for 4 days straight, I got welcomed by that redbird. It was sitting on my deer stand when I walked up. And I get up in the deer stand, and then it would come back, and then it would come back. And I'm glad there wasn't any cameras, because to be honest, I got to where I was like, Dad, get out of the way. There's deer walking up. Like I literally, I talk to redbirds a lot nowadays.
Me too.
But I went home, and after those 4 days, it was just like it wasn't random to me anymore. It was this is Dad. And that song poured out of me. Honestly, I mean, I would bet I spent about 6 minutes writing Redbird
Oh my goodness.
um and I played it for my wife, and she was on speakerphone with her best friend Gina, and Gina was just like hurling through the phone crying.
Kind of like I am right now.
I mean, I felt like I thought I felt fit on me. She was crying. So, yeah, I mean, she was just bawling, and that's I was like, okay, this is a good song.
I'll say.
Sent it to some friends, and it kind of took off from there. But I'll tell you what, I mean, like, I'm weird on that stuff. I believe it, and I think it's him. And I was outside yesterday. I come to my lake house. I write a lot of songs at my lake house. I think it's just I'm far enough away from work and stuff that I can concentrate. And I was sitting out there yesterday searching for a song, and a redbird flew by, and I wrote a song in about 10 minutes. And I'm just like, I looked up, it's almost like you see the boys coming down the road when you're about to go to war or something. I saw that redbird, and I was like, all right, here it is. Here we go.
Yep.
Oh
And
my goodness.
10 minutes later, I wrote a song, and I'm just like, it honestly shocks me every time I see it, because I just get this feeling that's so outside of a body experience, when I see them. Another cool story was we were in Indiana, and I was playing at this art room, and it was at a state park, Angel Mound State Park, and I played my whole darn set. I was sitting there, and I got on the song Redbird. And they had they had lights on me and everything. And they had picture frames on the walls that I guess I just didn't notice. They had little lights above them. And this light to my right kept flickering about the last 20 minutes of the show. And I kid you not, we actually have this on video. I'll send you the video. I kid you not, mid song, I look over and I realize the picture under the light flickering is a redbird
Stop it.
painting. Yeah. And it like gave me chills down to my toes. And I got done with the song, and you can hear in the song I got choked up, and I looked over and I said, "Has that been flickering all night?" And they're like, "No." And everybody in there was a mess. But it was just the craziest thing, that can't deny that.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it- Here's Logan Mack turning me into a puddle again.
Yeah.
I even said it in the intro. I'm like, this is going to be the episode where I cry on camera.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's good to cry.
That
Yeah,
connection,
man.
The release.
that connection is such a gift, though, and I think this seems like the appropriate time to take a quick break, mostly to let Frank compose herself, but also.
Frank.
But also, we got to listen to Redbird. We got to make sure people understand what we're talking about. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Logan about musical influences and what's coming up next for him as we head out to break. Here's a bit of the aforementioned Redbird. Stick around. This is Roots Music Rambler.
Hey, Redbird, are you really a Redbird? Or is that who I think it is, sitting on a limb checking up on me? I hope that you're okay, and damn it, I miss you. This big world seems so small since you had to leave. I hope that you're healed now, with a fresh set of fast wings. If it's really you, could you help me through? 'Cause I can't see. Hey there, Redbird, I'm so blue. I've lost my north, I've lost direction, I lost you. You told me that you loved me through my habits, and I swore to you I'd fight your wolves away. All our burdens, we'll leave them behind us. We're all sinners anyway. I'm not saying that there won't be bitter mornings. Keep my Carhartt coat to keep you warm, and the gusts might take the windows from the curtains, but I'll lock the door. We will stand when the storms bring the wind, and I'll bite down when
Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. The song you just heard is Hard to Lose by Logan Mack off his debut album, Till the Ground. So, Logan, we talked a lot in the previous segment about the emotional depth and the lived experiences prevalent in your songwriting. I'm curious, are there specific artists who have kind of helped shape your sound and lyrics? Who do you draw inspiration from?
Yeah, definitely. I would say my top 3 artists that I draw a lot of inspiration from for different reasons are Jason Isbell, John Prine, and Radney Foster.
That's a great list.
Yeah,
I'll say.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Radney has been a influence on me for quite a while, to be honest. I can remember being little and listening. My dad would listen to his music a lot, and Texas in 1880 and Nobody Wins, and all the good songs off the Del Rio album. But then he got reintroduced to me whenever I was in high school. There was a little bitty band from Texas called the Randy Rogers Band that was coming through town, and I went and saw them, and I was just like, it made me want to play music, to be honest, that moment. And just listening to their songs, and how honest they were. And so I started digging into who wrote the songs, who produced the album, and the specific songs that I was looking at. Radney Foster helped write them, and he produced that album. And it's a full circle moment, to be working with Radney now, all these years later. He thought I was a liar, to be honest, when I met him and told him all this. And one of the coolest Nashville stories I have is I was sitting in SoundCloud studio in Nashville, and my manager at the time was like, "Hey, I got a friend coming by to get something from me." Well, his friend was Radney Foster. And I go out there, I stop recording, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Foster, could you sign my book for me?" And he's like, "Your book?" And I grabbed out, and it was his book, For You to See the Stars, that I've been reading. And he was just blown away that I had it. You know, it looked like it had been ran over by a golf cart 10 times, but he was blown away that I had it. And then the most intimidated I've ever been in my life, he said, "Okay." He said, "Well, anybody can write one song that goes viral. I want to hear something else." And he pulled a chair up, and we were nose to nose facing each other. And he's like, "Sing me another song." And I started singing him part of a song I had half written called Tonight in Tulsa. And I saw chill bumps on his arms, and he was grabbing his arm, looking at his chill bumps. And he was like, "You want to write that song together?" And
Oh.
2 weeks later, we finished it. And that was the biggest, like, emotional roller coaster hour for my life. I was scared. He was nose to nose with me. Then he likes me. Then I'm like, "I guess I'm going to Radney Foster's house." He's like, "Yeah, just come through the back gate." You know, and I'm like, "I'm going to Radney Foster's backyard next week to write a song. Like, what is going on?"
Wow.
That's
But,
awesome.
You
So
really do
he's
have
been
some amazing stories.
yeah, he's been a huge influence on me, and it was really full circle. But, you know, John Prine, I really appreciate his wittiness with words, how he can say something and make it feel an emotion, you know, that if you're reading it on paper, maybe you wouldn't feel, you know. And I think that's really cool, and I think there's art to that. And then Jason Isbell, obviously, you know, I would say when I became an adult, I found his music. You know, when I had kids and a wife, and just listening to all the stories, it made me want to write songs. You know, and I love an artist that I go, "What did he say?" And I rewind it. And that for me was Jason Isbell, and it made me want to be that guy that goes. People go, "What did he just say?" Hold on, you know. Um, and he's just a phenomenal writer, and I've learned a lot just listening to his music. I'd love to meet him one day, but I just listening to his music, you know, it's been like a kind of like a guideline for me. I'm kind of nerd out with it and dig into how he structures songs and what he's trying to say, and you know, his style of, I mean, down to when he uses adjectives. And I study all this a lot listening to music. I can't listen to a song and enjoy it, is what I'm saying. What key is it in? What is the rhyme? You know, it's frustrating sometimes. My wife gets really annoyed because she'll look over at me at concerts, and she's caught on, and she's like, "You're trying to figure out what key the song's in, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah." So
Oh my goodness.
it happens, but no, those 3 are big for me. I mean, obviously there's other, you know, Tyler Childers. I really like Joshua Sloan and Sam Barber right now. I've been listening to a lot of their stuff, and I really enjoy that. Ryan Bingham, Turnpike Troubadours is a huge one. But yeah, just all them songwriters got good
Yeah.
lyrics. I like them all.
Wow. And, you know, Jason Isbell is part of the reason that I started Roots Music Rambler way back in the day. And I nerd out too listening to his music. I can't tell you how my vocabulary expanded, you know, just
Yeah.
listening to his music because what is it? The Cumberland Gap song. And now, of course, I can't think of the word, but he's talking about the hills that have been like decapitated from all the coal mining. I
He
can't
gets
think of
away
the
with
word.
these words, and I'm just
Yes.
like,
Yes.
he's the whole reason I wrote Euphoric. I was like, "I've never heard the
Okay.
word euphoric in a song. I'm gonna write it." Jason Isbell would. And,
There you go.
What
you
would
know,
Jason
no.
Isbell do? Nice.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
it.
yeah. I love that though. That is interesting though. He does do that, and man, just some of the way he writes stuff and he tells the story and he wraps it up is just phenomenal to me. I just think he lives, you know, John Mayer said, I think it was John Mayer said that he lives at this level of songwriting that some great songwriters might reach once every 100 songs they write, you know, and it's honest. I mean,
Sure.
just all, we could sit and talk about Jason Isbell on the
Right.
next podcast.
Good.
Well, we want to talk about your music. So, as we talked about in the open too, so Jason, my partner here, Jason, not Jason Isbell, we first heard your music during your acoustic sets at Crossroads. But your recorded music features a full band, which to me just adds an entirely new dimension to your
Yeah.
songs. So, can you tell us about your band, who plays which instruments, and the accompanying vocalist? Because I'm thinking specifically about your song Overlook a Lot. The harmonies on that song are just gorgeous.
Yeah. The album was recorded pre-band. So what was really cool about recording the album is I went down with David Beck, and he produced the album, but he played bass, and his co-producer Dees played drums. So we cut that entire record live. We all just sat in a room and played. In fact, Till the Ground was the first take of the album that was the first take, first song we recorded when we recorded the album. We all looked at each other when we were done, and I was like, "Okay, we're on to something." But so that was all studio band, and the harmonies on "Overlook a Lot," I believe, were Skylar, one of David's buddies. B is my fiddler. She sings all of the harmonies with me now on live stuff. But yeah, we got a really cool band actually. It's pretty funny, I go to these acoustic fests and these songwriter fests, and I always sit and think, boy, when they hear the album, they're gonna be like, "Oh wow, okay," you know.
Absolutely. That happened to
Um,
me. True story.
yeah, but our band is pretty nasty. I won't lie. We got a keys player, Adam Hollingsworth. He's from Tulsa. He plays the keys for us, and then Brandon is from LA, and he plays the drums. And then what's really cool is my lead guitarist, but he plays everything. My lead plays banjo, I mean, steel guitar, lap guitar. I mean, anything with strings on it, he plays, and he'll set and switch mid song during the show. Like it's really a cool thing. And then, but what's cool about him, Justin, is me and Justin played together when I was 18. So he was my
Okay.
lead player then, and so we kind of reunited all these years later. And his stepson's actually my bass player also.
Sweet.
So it's cool.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's kind of for the most part pretty local. But yeah, no, and we just played in Graham, Texas as a full band last week, and it was a fun show. It was awesome. Everything sound My big deal is I wanted it to sound like the album, most of the songs, and we nailed it on 3 weeks of practice. So we're very new to the full band, on the road, which is a lot harder than I thought it'd be to track down. It's really easy to get studio musicians, but it's really hard to keep a band together. Some people like Dr. Pepper and some people like Coke. So
Yeah. Well,
it's
they're
a
also the
it's
proposition I would think is, hey, you want to go live in a van with me for 6 months?
right.
And
Yeah,
I'm
you gotta
thinking
be
most
really
people are gonna.
passionate.
I mean, no offense, but I think most people will take a look at you and go, I don't know about that.
Well, you definitely gotta love it, and live and breathe it, because that's what it is. But I try to accommodate everybody. I understand, and I try to do as much non-monetary benefits as I can of being in the band, and they appreciate all that. So, but no, they're all excited. We're all excited right now. It's kind of a big pivotal, feels like a big point in my
Mm.
career right now. We got some. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm going to. But we got some really big thing. We got Live at the Print Shop coming out, and then we got told that we're gonna be in Rolling Stones magazine this fall.
Oh,
So
wow.
Cool.
if that comes through, now that I said it live, he has to do it. See what I did there?
Yeah, there
But,
you go.
Manifest it.
Lay
but,
that trap.
But yeah, and then we just had a cool write up on American Songwriter, which is huge. I mean, to be in that, and it just. I was telling my manager this morning. He was calling me, and we were talking a little bit of business. And I just said, "Man, it just feels like we're one sleep away some
Mhm.
days. It's like, and that's really exciting to be able. My mindset every day waking up is I'm like, all right, who's gonna call today? What's gonna happen today? And it's a really cool. I feel like everybody in their life should deserve that. If they're chasing their dream, they should be able, because it just puts the outlook. I still work in construction, and I mean I'm still working 50 hours a week doing that, bidding jobs. I'm not in the field as much as I normally would be now. But I mean, like the last 2 days, I bid 24 jobs. And so it, in a way, keeps me inspired to keep doing that. With all this news. And it's like, just hard to not have a smile on your face, you know, when you wake up and realize that, you know, any moment it could go my way, you know, and I'll
Yeah.
take that. I'd rather be lucky than good. So
Oh, hell yeah, all day. One thing I wanted to get back to before we let you go, we've talked a lot about your songs, and we talked about the emotional depth and the truth and honesty in your writing. But I want to make sure that folks out there, they might be surprised to hear that not all of your songs are tear jerkers.
I know.
In fact, my favorite song of yours is "Damn It, Debbie," which cracks me up because I got a couple of those aunts and relatives in my family too. I love the story behind "Damn It, Debbie." Please share that with us.
Well, Damn It Debbie's a freaking banger, dude. I love Damn It Debbie. I've like been waiting for the world to find out about Damn It Debbie.
Hell
No,
yeah.
Damn It Debbie's cool. It's funny. My mom texted me the other night and she's like, every time I hear Damn It Debbie, I just see it. She said it's so honest and funny. And yeah, so I every summer growing up, I would always look forward to going down to Lake Texoma. That's where my aunt and uncle lived. And, it was just so fun to be around my aunt, to be honest. She was, you know, everybody these days calls people Karens, you know, like a grumpy late, you know. She was the opposite of that though. She was just always, you know, she was a hard worker during the week, super quiet around the house. And then when we go to the lake, it was like this whole new version of her. You know, and you're like, "Damn, she's cool," you know, and, like, I found myself wanting to hang out with her more than my friends, you know, because it was just a roller coaster, it was funny, you know, and she just always had a good spirit about stuff, you know, and if Debbie was ever depressed, I'd never seen it because she was just always life of the party down there and good going, and the day I wrote about, though, or the summer we were on the islands and this big rainstorm came. And earlier that day, I'd noticed that Debbie had been drinking these silver cans. And I told my mom, I was like, man, Debbie's just getting funnier and funnier, you know? And I was at the age I didn't really know what beer did, you know? And, and she just got funnier and funnier with every drink she drank. And so this storm wound up coming and everybody's running to the boats from the islands. And I'm talking like a bad, like tornado. And so we luckily get on the boat, we get back to the dock, Steve backs the boat down, we load the boat, and everybody bails. At this point, it's like raining/hailing. And I'll never forget, I got in the back door and I look back and Debbie's sitting in that driver's seat and she's just like got her hands in the air, just like letting the rain hit her. And she's yelling, "It's raining memories. It's raining memories." And I look at my mom and I go, "Mom, what does that mean? What does it mean that it's raining memories?" She goes, "It means that your Aunt Debbie likes to drink too much." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And Steve gets out of there and he says the magic words. When he was mad at my aunt, he'd always go, "Damn it, Debbie, what are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, damn it, Deb." And that's the first cuss word I ever said. I looked at my mom and I was like, "Damn it, Debbie." And of course, she got on to me a little bit, you know, trying not to laugh as a parent, your kid cussing, but but anyways, so I just always that memory always stuck in my mind, and I was actually sitting right here at my lake house where I was sitting, and I started that, and I was like, I just started it with, "Oh, damn it, Debbie." You know, I was walking around the house, stubbing my toe, saying, "Damn it, Debbie." We've been saying it for years, you know. That's the best part about it is I've always said, "Damn it, Debbie." You know, and I was like, That's gotta be a song." You know, and I started reflecting and I started thinking about stuff she would do that was so funny to me. Like I would always one that always stuck to me is I'd always go up and I'd be like, "Aunt Debbie, you got anything to drink?" She's like, "You can have anything you want in that cooler over there." And I go over to the cooler and it was all beer. And I was like, "Where's the Capri Suns at, Debbie?" You know, and she's like, "Well, there's a wine cooler. There's a wine cooler right there. You can have that." You
My
know, and I was like,
goodness.
"Nine drinking wine." But no, she's a good woman. She's funny, man, and she's a good time, and I don't think she ever has any bad days. And the song's funny, but in all reality, I think we should all live a little bit more like Debbie and not take life so serious, you know? But, no, when we wrote that song or when I wrote that song, I couldn't hardly get through it for the longest time. I was laughing so hard. We know, just And first time I played it on stage, I was sitting at a songwriter festival, and these people in front of me were laughing so hard that they made me start laughing. And so we just had like a little laugh, and I just got tickled about it. And I started laughing, and I couldn't stop. And you'd have thought I stopped at the dadgum gummy shop before I came to that set. I had tears in my eyes listening to them. Well, the laugh just like yours, Jason. It was that breathing in laugh, and I'm going, she's with. I mean, that thing could have started a damn lawnmower. And I just couldn't avoid it. I was sitting there and I was like, okay, for a second, we're gonna laugh.
Yeah.
But I
So
knew
there's my
in
Kleenex.
Dripping Springs. I knew in Dripping Springs when it was my first time ever meeting those people, and we'd play like 3 sets a day. And after that first set that I played Damn It Debbie, every set we had these people, and they'd grow by 2 or 3 at each set, and they'd be like, play Damn It Debbie.
Yeah.
Now, when the person next to me is like, I thought you had never been to this place. And I was like, well, I haven't. But
So, moral of the story here, folks, is definitely go see Logan Mack when he comes to your town. You'll laugh, you'll cry. It's better than Cats. And if
That's
you're of a
right.
certain age, you get that reference.
That's right. That's right.
And if you don't hear Damn It Debbie in the first 5 or 6 songs, yell it out. Say, play Damn It Debbie. He'll know.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do
My
it.
goodness. Well, you mentioned something about a tornado, and as we're sitting here recording, the tornado sirens are going off here in Chicago. So,
Drive away.
drive away. Got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll let you get out of here. But you kind of talked about what's coming up next for you, right? Like the acoustic album, right? Live acoustic album.
Yeah, we got 2 albums coming up. Another band, another full band, and then July, after the first week of July, we'll drop live at the print shop 1 song at a time for 5 weeks, and then we'll drop all 12 tracks. But they're all guitar acoustic, and there's 2 that have never been recorded. That'll be new songs to people. So
That's
one of them's
exciting.
a cover. Yeah. So
Right, we
y'all
gotta wait.
heard it. Y'all heard it.
I think I know. Okay. I won't give it
Yeah.
up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. I know what you're talking about. Gotcha.
Yeah, but I'm excited about that. And then we got the full band. I guess I got to finish writing for it. I got to write 4 songs in the next 3 weeks. But we got another 12-track full band. David Beck, same guy that produced the last album. So
Nice.
August
Very
1st, we go in to record that. So
Coming up.
I'm excited. Yep.
That is
I'm
awesome.
being-
So, real quickly before we let you jump out of here, tell people where they can find you and all that good music on them there interwebs.
Yeah, you can go to www.loganmacmusic.com. It's got all my social links there. It's got my tour, my merch store, all kinds of really cool bios that somebody else wrote about me and spent a lot of time on, and they're really good. So you should definitely read them. I was like, damn, that's good.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's good.
Damn it, Des. But no, yeah, that's kind of the landing spot for everything. We post on there and we keep it up to date. So
Awesome. I think you can get you a Damn It Debbie hat on that thing.
Yes.
Can't you? Yeah.
all damn it, Debbie. Yeah,
All
you can
Damn
get
It
you
Debbie.
one of
I
those.
love it. Well, Logan, man, we can't thank you enough for spending some time with us. If it wasn't already obvious, we're big fans here at Roots Music Rambler. And for those of you watching and listening out there, be sure to check out our show notes at rootsmusicrambler.com for links to all that stuff. And since we have been spending the last probably 10 minutes talking about this song, it seems appropriate that we go out with Damn It Debbie. Stick
Come
around.
on.
Our Pickin the Grinnin segment's coming up next. This is Roots Music Rambler.
Well, my uncle's place was on the Texas side. He said, damn Deb, slow down, girl, you're gonna die. And she'd scream that it was raining memories. That's when everybody knew that Debbie liked to drink. Was a redneck summer if I ever had one. 'Cause Aunt Debbie get to drinking and she'd get fun. She'd keep a loaded down cooler for her underage son. When Debbie wasn't looking, I'd grab me one. Oh, damn it, Debbie. Oh, damn it, Debbie. Well, Debbie was the coolest in the KOA.
Well, we told you it wouldn't be all snot, crying, and tears and stuff. That Logan Mack is funny as shit, frankly. He needs to write more funny songs is what he needs to do.
Yeah, for sure. I still like the
So-
sad ones, but
Well, sure. But yeah, the more damn it Debbie's is what I say we need to protect. We need to camp out in front of his house with signs, more damn it Debbie.
and you can get that Damn It Debbie merch on his website, which
That's right,
I think is
that's-
hilarious.
I'm kicking myself now because I didn't buy a hat when it was sitting right in front of me. I should
Right.
have, but I have a thing with hats. I have this hat, Jason Isbell Southeastern hat that I wear sometimes that Karen got me, and I wore it on an episode not long ago, and somebody commented on one of our videos where we talked about our haters are coming out of the woodwork recently.
Yeah.
Somebody commented on one of our little TikTok or Instagram videos. They said, "How big is that man's head?" Because the hat's kind of smallish. I have a big head, yes, but it's not tiny. But he's like, I bet that guy wears an 8 and 11/18 hat size or something. Like,
My
fuck you
goodness.
guys. Anyway, I got big goddamn brains. Y'all got to keep up. Here we go. All right, it's time for the Pickin the Grinnin segment. This is a part of the program where Frank and I pick who are making us grin. It's our way of recommending new artists, new albums, new songs, new documentaries, new podcasts, whatever we're listening to us that we're going to get the kick out of. And so I'm going to be a selfish prick today and go first because I spent, as we're recording this, I spent last weekend at the Monarch here in Louisville, which is the listening room experience that I've told you guys about several times. And I went primarily, I originally thought I'm going to go see my boy Taylor Lansdale, who's a friend of the program, because he was making his Monarch debut. And the week prior, I had seen his Burl debut in Lexington. So I went to see Taylor a couple times the last couple weeks. But the other band that was playing, we have a connection to through this show in a serendipitous way a little bit. But Sarah Bond is the fiddle player for Bill Taylor and the Appalachian Heathens. Well, she also is in a band with her husband and 3 other folks called the Pretty Goods. And the Pretty Goods were also playing with Taylor, or, at the same event. Taylor was technically the opening act, and the Pretty Goods were kind of the headliner if you wanted to do it that way. But in listening room situations, it's really more that they're just playing in that order. But Sarah and her husband Brandon and the rest of the Pretty Goods played, and they only have 2 songs out right now, as we speak anyway, when we're recording this, on Spotify, but they're working on more and making new music, and they sound really good. They're an interesting mix of, I would call them almost a pop folk rock sound.
Okay.
But they've got, Sarah plays fiddle. They've got a stand-up bass player who writes a couple of songs. The songs that he wrote were the ones that I was like, ooh, I like that one a lot. Not that I didn't like the rest of them, but his songs are kind of funky and clever. But they've got a drum set. They've got Brandon plays rhythm and sometimes lead guitar. Sarah plays fiddle. They've got 2 singers. Sarah sings, and then they have another singer, and then they have the stand-up bass player. So they've got this kind of rock, folk, country mix.
Okay.
And their songs are really good. Sarah and the other singer, her name is escaping my brain. I think it's Meredith or Miranda. I forget which one it is. I apologize. Beautiful voices and really good songs. And the Pretty Goods, they're out of Shelbyville, Kentucky, which is right down the road from me here in Louisville. And I could listen to Sarah Bond play fiddle all fucking day with no accompaniment or anything else and be perfectly happy. So if that tells you anything, go listen to the Pretty Goods. They're more than pretty good.
Ooh. And
That's
you
my
said
pick.
that they have just a couple of songs, and are they on like Spotify,
Yes,
Apple
they
Music,
have-
and all
I
that?
think-
Okay.
I think they have 2 songs out there on the streaming platforms, but more to come. And I know that they have several clips and whatnot on their social media channels. You can look them up. They're the Pretty Goods, and we'll certainly make sure there's a link to at least their Spotify in the show notes.
All right. Excellent.
There you go. All right, Frank, what's your Pickin the Grinnin this week?
My pick is kind of out of left field. Well, maybe not, but couple weeks ago, I took Lucia to a show, and there were 3 bands playing. First one was Vandaliers, and the last one was the Toadies. And in the middle was a Chicago staple band that goes by Local H. So I know that they're known outside of Chicago as well, but of course, everybody, like you talk about the Eastern Kentuckians, right? Chicago people, we all take pride in our local bands as well. So Local H has been around for decades. I mean, I think they formed in the early 90s. And I'm sure we've all heard at least one of their songs, but I never really did a deep dive. I just kind of I liked what I heard, but didn't really feel compelled to go any deeper. But Lucia has just lost her mind over Local H in the past several months. So when we saw Vandaliers and Local H together on a bill, we're like, no brainer, right? So Vandaliers, of course, were great, but their set was really short, and that's a whole other story. But anyway, Local H comes out, and I never realized that it's just 2 guys in the band. Like, for as much noise as the band makes, there's only 2 people. It's just Scott, the guitarist and vocalist, and then the drummer. But holy shit, did they rock? And was that crowd insane? Of course, we were down in the pit, and hometown show, right? A mosh pit breaks out. I haven't been in a mosh pit in a good, I don't know, 30 years. So I was like, oh man, I am too old for this. So, but we managed, we navigated, we're all good. But yeah, they really rocked. And, I'm kind of not sad, but I kind of wish that maybe I had seen them live when I was younger and able to be in a mosh pit. But yeah, it was great. And, the whole point of the show, or their involvement, was celebrating the 30th anniversary of the release of their album that I can't remember the name of right now. As Good as Dead. There we go. As Good as Dead. I had to look that
All
up.
right.
So yeah, it was fun. So we got to see Vandaliers and Local H, and then we left before the Toadies took the stage because we just didn't care.
Well, you got yourself out of a mosh pit, which congratulations on that. And keep in mind, kids, if you're over the age of 50 and you find yourself in a mosh pit, your health insurance premium is going up. Roots Music Rambler is a production of Falls and Partners, copyright 2026. Our theme music is Sheepskin and Beeswax by Gentacorum. Join us online at rootsmusicrambler.com and make sure you mash that subscribe or follow button so you remember to join us for the next Hoe-Down and Throwdown. She's Frank.
And he's Falls.
And whatever you do, kids, remember.